Liberalism. Liberals are champions of individual liberty, equality before the law, and a healthy dose of government to keep things fair. They believe in free markets, where businesses can compete freely, but also social safety nets like unemployment benefits to help those in need. This might include things like universal health care, subsidized education, and welfare programs. They generally support a mix of economy with a blend of public and private ownership. Conservatism. Conservatives value tradition, social order, and a strong national identity. They often advocate for limited government intervention in the economy and social issues, preferring a more hands-off approach. They believe that the free market is the most efficient way to allocate resources and create prosperity. However, they might also support some government regulations to protect consumers and the environment. Social conservatives tend to be more traditional on issues like family values and religion. Socialism. Socialism takes a more interventionist stance, a philosophy rooted in collective ownership and solidarity. Socialists believe in a fairer distribution of wealth, with the government playing a bigger role in regulating the economy and providing social programs like healthcare and education. The extent of government ownership can vary depending on the specific socialist ideology. Some socialists advocate for complete state control of the means of production, factories, mines, etc., while others prefer a mixed economy, with a strong social safety net funded by progressive taxation, taxing the wealthy more than the poor. Syndicalism. Syndicalism takes socialism a step further, emphasizing the role of trade unions and direct action in achieving social change. Syndicalists believe that workers should organize themselves into decentralized, revolutionary organizations called syndicates, which would coordinate their efforts to overthrow capitalism and establish a new worker-controlled society. Capitalism. Capitalism, the engine of modern economies. It emphasizes private ownership of businesses and minimal government regulation. Competition is king, and the theory goes, everyone benefits from a thriving market where businesses compete to offer the best goods and services at the lowest prices. However, critics of capitalism argue that it can lead to wealth inequality and a lack of social safety nets for the most vulnerable members of society. Modernism. Moderatism might not sound exciting, but it's a crucial ingredient in a healthy democracy as it occupies the middle ground of the political spectrum, advocating for pragmatism and compromise. Moderates seek to stay within the bounds of the political mainstream, avoiding extremes and embracing incremental change. While they may lack the passion of more ideologically driven movements, moderates play a crucial role in bridging divides and finding common ground. Feminism. Feminism fights for equal rights and opportunities for all genders. It challenges traditional gender roles and societal biases that hold women back. Feminists advocate for policies that promote gender equality in areas like education, employment, political participation, and reproductive rights. There are many branches of feminism, each with its own focus, such as liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, and radical feminism. While feminism has made significant strides in recent decades, there's still much work to be done to achieve true gender equality. Environmentalism. Environmentalism champions the protection of our planet, a political and social movement that seeks to protect the natural world from human exploitation and destruction. Environmentalists believe that we have a responsibility to future generations to conserve natural resources and combat climate change. They advocate for sustainable practices, renewable energy sources, and policies that reduce pollution. Environmentalism can encompass a wide range of issues, from protecting endangered species to promoting clean air and water. While environmentalism has gained mainstream acceptance in recent years, it continues to face opposition from industries and governments that prioritize economic growth over environmental protection. Social democracy. Social democracy is a political ideology that combines elements of socialism and liberalism, advocating for a mixed economy with both private and public ownership of the means of production. Social Democrats believe in the importance of social welfare programs, progressive taxation, and government regulation to ensure economic stability and social justice. Think of it as a cozy middle ground between pure capitalism and socialism. Social democracy has been successful in many countries at reducing poverty and inequality, but it continues to face challenges from neoliberalism and globalization. Social liberalism. Social liberalism is a political ideology that focuses on expanding social mobility and providing equal opportunities for all members of society. Social liberals believe in the importance of government intervention in the economy to ensure economic justice and protect the most vulnerable members of society. They prioritize access to education, healthcare, and other resources to level the playing field for everyone. Anarchism. Anarchism might sound like chaos, but it's actually about dismantling centralized authority and building self-governing communities. Anarchists believe that people can cooperate and organize themselves without the need for a traditional government. There are many different schools of anarchists, though, such as anarcho-communism, which advocates for a classless, stateless society with collective ownership of resources, and anarcho-capitalism, which believes private companies can provide all the functions of government. Nationalism. Nationalism puts the nation first. Nationalists believe in a strong national identity, sovereignty, and self-determination. They often advocate for policies that promote national unity and economic self-sufficiency. Each nation should govern itself, free from outside interference, and the interests of the nation should take precedence over those of other countries or international organizations. Nationalism can be a positive force, fostering patriotism and civic engagement, but it can also lead to xenophobia, fear of outsiders, and militarism, fascism. And fascism takes nationalism to an extreme. Fascists glorify the nation and its leader, often using violence and oppression to maintain control. They believe in a rigid social hierarchy with limited individual freedoms and strong central authority. Fascist regimes often suppress dissent, control the media, and scapegoat minority groups. Communism. Communism is a revolutionary ideology that aims to create a classless, stateless society based on common ownership of the means of production. Communists believe that capitalism inevitably leads to exploitation and inequality, and that the only way to achieve true equality is through the abolition of private property and the establishment of a planned economy. The government, in theory, would eventually wither away once a perfect society is established. In practice, many communist states have become authoritarian regimes with limited political freedoms. Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism provides strong central leadership with limited political freedoms. Authoritarian regimes may hold elections, but they're often rigged or uncompetitive. They often rely on censorship, propaganda, and repression to maintain control over their populations. Citizens have few rights to criticize the government or organize opposition parties. Authoritarianism can exist on both the left and right of the political spectrum. Transhumanism. Transhumanism is a philosophical and social movement that advocates for the use of technology to enhance human capabilities and transcend biological limitations. Transhumanists believe that advances in fields such as biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology hold the potential to radically transform the human condition, leading to longer lifespans, enhanced cognitive abilities, and improved quality of life. Think super soldiers or life extension through advanced medical technologies and brain-computer interfaces. Anarcho-capitalism. Anarcho-capitalism combines a hatred for government with a love for free markets. They advocate for the abolition of the state and the establishment of a voluntary society based on private property and free exchange. They believe private companies can take over all the functions of government, from law enforcement to courts. They argue that a free market can provide security, dispute resolution, and other essential services more efficiently than the state. Secessionism. Separatism, also known as secessionism, is a desire of a region or group to break away from a larger country and form their own independent state. This can be based on factors like ethnicity, religion, or cultural differences. The Basque Country in Spain and Scotland in the United Kingdom are just two examples of regions with active separatist movements. Imperialism. Imperialism is the not-so-nice practice of a powerful nation extending its control over weaker ones, often through military force or economic dominance. Imperialist powers often justify their actions by claiming to bring civilization, progress, or democracy to the territories they conquered. Throughout history, empires have been built through conquest and colonization. However, imperialism has also been criticized for its exploitation of indigenous peoples, destruction of local cultures, and perpetuation of inequality. But thankfully, it's a declining ideology in the modern world. Social capitalism. Social capitalism blends social democracy, social liberalism, and capitalism. Think strong safety nets alongside a healthy dose of free market competition. They believe that government intervention in the economy can be used to promote social justice and economic stability without stifling innovation and entrepreneurship. Think of countries like the Scandinavian nations, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, which have robust welfare states funded by high taxes, but also maintain thriving private sectors. Third way. The third way tries to bridge the gap between left and right. It supports a balance between social programs and economic freedom, with a focus on education and workforce development. Third way policies might include investments in education and training programs to promote social mobility, while also encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship in the private sector. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair is often associated with third way politics. Neoliberalism. Neoliberalism champions privatization, deregulation, and free trade. It emphasizes the role of the private sector in driving economic growth, but critics argue it can lead to increased inequality and a decline in social safety nets. Neoliberals believe that government intervention in the economy stifles innovation and growth, and that the best way to promote prosperity is to remove barriers to competition and entrepreneurship. These policies were widely adopted in the 1980s and 1990s and are associated with figures like Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. Corporatism. Corporatism offers a different approach to economic organization, advocating for collaboration between the state, employers, and workers. Under a corporatist system, different sectors of the economy are organized into corporate bodies, which negotiate with each other to set wages, prices, and production levels. While corporatism aims to promote stability and cooperation, critics argue that it can also lead to the suppression of individual freedoms and the entrenchment of corporate interests. Libertarianism. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have libertarianism. Standing on the principles of liberty and limited government, libertarianism offers a vision of individual freedom and personal responsibility. Advocating for free markets and minimal state intervention, libertarians push back against government overreach. Populism. Populism is a political ideology that appeals to the interests and concerns of ordinary people against those of the elite or establishment. Populist movements often emerge in response to perceived injustices or inequalities in society, and they can take on various forms depending on the context. Populism can also be a powerful force for change. It can also be divisive and prone to manipulation by charismatic leaders. Republicanism. Republicanism is a political philosophy that advocates for a system of government in which power is vested in the people, rather than a hereditary monarch. Republicans believe in the importance of civic virtue, civic responsibility, and the rule of law. While republicanism has its roots in ancient Greece and Rome, it continues to influence political thought and practice around the world. Progressivism. Progressivism is a political ideology that seeks to address social and economic problems through reform and innovation. Progressives advocate for policies that promote equality, justice, and opportunity for all members of society. Progressivism flourished in the early 20th century and continues to evolve and adapt to meet the challenges of the modern world. Egalitarianism. Grounded in the principle of equality, egalitarianism advocates for equal rights and opportunities for all members of society. Egalitarians believe that everyone should have the same rights, opportunities, and access to resources, regardless of their race, gender, or socioeconomic status. Challenging systematic discrimination and privilege, egalitarians strive to create a more just and inclusive world. Communitarianism. Communitarianism is a socio-political philosophy that emphasizes the importance of community and a collective well-being. Communitarians believe that individuals are inherently social beings who find meaning and fulfillment through their connections to others. Though communitarianism shares some similarities with socialism and liberalism, it places a greater emphasis on the role of community and social relationships in shaping individual identity and behavior. Nazism. Nazism is a specific form of fascism that emerged in Germany in the 1930s under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. Nazism is characterized by its extreme racism, anti-Semitism, and belief in the superiority of the Aryan race. While Nazism was defeated in World War II, its legacy continues to haunt the world, reminding us of the dangers of hatred, bigotry, and intolerance. Anarcho-communism. Anarcho-communism combines elements of anarchism and communism. Anarcho-communists advocate for the abolition of state and private property, envisioning a society based on voluntary cooperation and common ownership of the means of production. Though anarcho-communism has never been fully realized in practice, it continues to inspire radical movements around the world. Marxism. Marxism is a political plus economic ideology that emerged in the 19th century as a response to the social and economic inequalities created by capitalism. Marxism analyzes society through the lens of class struggle, arguing that the capitalist system inevitably leads to exploitation and oppression. Marxists believe that the only way to achieve true equality is through the abolition of private property and the establishment of a socialist society based on common ownership of the means of production. Leninism. Leninism builds on the ideas of Marxism, advocating for the establishment of a vanguard party to lead the working class in overthrowing capitalism and establishing a socialist state. Leninists believe that the revolution must be led by a disciplined and centralized organization of professional revolutionaries who can provide the necessary leadership and guidance to the masses. Leninism may have played a central role in the Russian Revolution of 1917, but it has also been criticized for its authoritarian tendencies and its suppression of dissent. Neo-libertarianism. Imagine libertarianism with a twist, where government intervention is not always the enemy, but can be used to promote greater liberty. Neo-libertarians believe in harnessing the power of the state to protect individual freedoms and promote free market principles. It's like finding common ground between limited government and progressive ideals, creating a more nuanced approach to political philosophy. Classical liberalism. Emerged in the 18th century, classical liberalism was a response to the absolute monarchies and feudalism of the time. It focused on limited government intervention, individual rights, and free markets, but modern liberals often support the role of government in regulating the economy and providing social safety nets. Think about the evolution of the Democratic Party in the United States, which has embraced social welfare programs like Social Security and Medicare, in addition to its commitment to individual liberty. Georgism. Georgism is a political and economic ideology that takes a unique approach to property rights, advocating for a single tax on the value of land to promote economic equity. Georgists believe that land should be collectively owned by society, with the benefits shared equally among all members. It's like reimagining the concept of property ownership, ensuring that everyone gets a fair shake in the game of life. Georgism has been praised for its simplicity and efficiency, but it's also been criticized for its potential to discourage investment and economic growth. Radicalism. Radicalism is a wing of classic liberalism that seeks to fundamentally change or overthrow existing social, political, and economic systems. Radicals believe that incremental reform is not enough to address systematic injustices and inequalities, and that more drastic action is necessary to bring about meaningful change. While radicalism can take many forms, From revolutionary socialism to anarchism to environmentalism, it is united by a commitment to challenging the status quo and fighting for a better world. Corporatocracy. In the age of globalization, corporatocracy emerges as a system where corporate interests wield outsized influence over government policies. Corporatocracies often prioritize the interests of wealthy elites and multinational corporations over those of ordinary citizens, leading to policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. From regulatory capture to corporate lobbying, corporatocracy raises questions about the integrity of democratic institutions. Integralism. Integralism puts the Catholic Church at the forefront of public policy, emphasizing traditional values and religious principles in governance. Integralists believe that society should be guided by moral and spiritual ideals, with the Church serving as a guiding light in the darkness of secularism. It's like taking a step back in time to a world where faith and reason walk hand in hand. Picture a world where progress is viewed with suspicion and tradition reigns supreme. Reactionism is a political ideology that seeks to roll back or reverse social, political, and economic changes brought about by liberalism, socialism, and other progressive movements. Reactionaries believe that society has strayed too far from its traditional roots and that radical action is necessary to restore order and stability. It's like hitting the brakes on the march of progress, clinging to the familiar comfort of the past in a rapidly changing world. Jacobinism. Jacobinism is about tearing down the old to make way for the new, advocating for radical change and revolutionary upheaval. It advocates for radical and revolutionary change in pursuit of social and political equality. Jacobins believe that the existing social order is fundamentally unjust and must be dismantled in order to create a more equitable and democratic society. Jacobinism may have its roots in the French Revolution of 1789, but it continues to inspire radical movements around the world, from anti-colonial struggles to labor organizing to civil rights activism. Whether you find yourself drawn to the principles of liberalism or the ideals of socialism or the values of conservatism, one thing is clear: the world of politics is rich, diverse, and endlessly fascinating.